The room is plunged into darkness. Only a dim candlelight illuminates the table in the middle. A group of 5 friends has gathered to make contact with the deceased. On the table is a Ouija board, mysterious and inviting at the same time. Tension is in the air as they sit around the table and place their hands on the planchette. They have heard the stories of the people who claim to have received messages from another world through these methods. Some were skeptical, others hopeful. But on this evening, when the veil between the living and the dead seemed thinnest, they decide to try. They open their hearts and minds to the unknown. As the darkness deepens, they begin to ask questions. Their fingers barely noticeably touch the planchette, and as if by magic it slowly moves across the Ouija board. It seems as if an invisible force knows their thoughts and answers their questions. The letters form words that shape themselves into sentences and messages. The desire for communication with the afterlife and contact with the deceased is deeply rooted in human culture. The thought of communication with the loved ones who have passed away, of having them around again, is tempting. Over the centuries, various methods have arisen in popular belief to establish this contact. Among the best known are the Ouija board, also known as the talking board or spirit board, as well as the table turning. The Ouija board is a flat rectangular board on which letters, numbers and other symbols are depicted. It is usually used with a small pointer called the planchette. To establish communication with deceased people, according to popular belief, participants place their hands on the planchette and ask questions to the presumed spirit world. The idea is that the spirits move the planchette across the board to respond to the questions. This method is stronger the more people are present. In table turning, participants sit around a table, place their hands on the table and wait for the turning. The table is meant to serve as a means of communication with the spirits. The alphabet is slowly spoken aloud and the table tilts at the corresponding letter, spelling out words and sentences. But what is really behind these practices? The purposeful thought has effects. When a group of people get together with the thought of invoking the spirits, it can have incalculable consequences. More on this later. Often, however, it is not what it seems. Participants often have a certain expectation or belief that the planchette or the table will move, and their subconscious can implement these expectations by causing unconscious muscle contractions in the fingers or arm, which is also called ideomotor movement. The phenomenon of ideomotor movements is closely connected to the subconscious. The subconscious is very receptive to suggestions. For example, if the participants are convinced that the planchette of the Ouija board will answer yes or no to a certain question, the subconscious can realize this conviction through ideomotor movements, and the planchette moves seemingly as if it were moved by a ghost. It is important to note that these movements are usually very subtle and can go unnoticed by the participants. It is often assumed that the planchette or table is moved by deceased people, spirits or energies, when in fact it is the participant's subconscious that creates the movements. Although it sounds tempting to seemingly contact the deceased, we would like to strongly warn against such techniques. The Torah says the following: "There shall not be found among you anyone who uses the binding spell, or a consulter of a ghost, or a knowing one, or a necromancer." From the point of view of the Western mysteries and some spiritual traditions, as well as our own, contact with the deceased is considered unethical, as respect is owed to the deceased. The souls of the deceased are on a journey up the planes. Contacting the deceased can disrupt the process or prevent from going on their intended path. Contacting the deceased can thus disturb the soul's tranquility and unnecessarily delay their journey to the spiritual plane, causing then unnecessary suffering. In addition, you can put yourself in danger. Contact with the deceased can also have negative effects on the person doing the practices. As mentioned earlier, purposeful thought has effects. The expectation of contacting spirits can have incalculable consequences and can also lead to psychosis, for example. If you want to learn to receive real messages from the higher planes and to recognize the pitfalls on this path, the training in prophetic Kabbalah, Kabbalah Nevuit, can support you. You will find the link in the video description. We would be very happy to receive your feedback, suggestions, or even questions in the comments. If you would like to learn more about communication with the subconscious, you are welcome to watch our video on pendulum dowsing. You will find the link in the video description.